And even though he knew he'd made a mistake, he still tried hard to make it work for him and make that quick lap, which is why you see him back in third place, perhaps as opposed to the pole that he really wanted. Red flag then at the front of the grid. MotoGP on the Circuit de Catalunya, just outside Barcelona. We're about to see whether Marc Marquez can make that work from third place on the grid, or will it be the other two Spaniards on the front row with him? And we're away. A good launch as well from Marc Marquez. Jorge gets a bit of a dodgy one, but it's Pedrosa. Oh, that's so Dani Pedrosa, as we have seen so many years on the trot. That fellow is like a bullet from a gun at the start. Through he goes. Jorge round here.
Oh, and Rossi.
Valentino follows him on the flip-flop. Rossi just gets close down. Marquez is at Rossi's shoulder. Rossi still holds that third place though. So it's Yamaha's 1 and 3 with Pedrosa, the meat in the sandwich, and Marquez relegated to fourth with Bradl all over him.
Bradl, great start by Stefan Bradl, qualified in fourth place.
Here goes Rossi. Rossi up the inside. Rossi makes it on the inside of Pedrosa, but will Pedrosa try and cut back and get underneath him on the power down that short chute? We'll have to wait and see that. No. Ha! Two Yamahas out front, Jules.
Blimey, who'd have thought it? Well, Valentino had his... Montmelo, 2 weeks ago, he ruined his race by qualifying 10th. Here he gets on for Charles Keith, he qualified middle of the second row. Over to you.
Hang on a minute, folks. I'll pull Julian down from the ceiling. He's up there. We've just seen 35 go through in front of Yoni Hernandez. I think that was, it might have been Iannone, but anyway, it was certainly... Cal Crutchlow on the 35 Ducati that had got the two Pramac bikes that are right in close attendance. In fact, Yoni Hernandez is even further up.
Bradley Smith made a bit of a Horlicks at the start. That first free bike you can see.
Oh, Marquez hot.
Is Pol Espargaro right behind the Ducati.
That is Marc Marquez in shot at the moment. Behind him, Stefan Bradl. Then it's Dovizioso, the best of the Ducatis at the moment.
Bradley Smith's being pushed back to about 12th place.
Yeah, maybe he's had a little bit of a run on. It all gets a bit hectic down in that first turn here, doesn't it? So we're looking back at Marc Marquez from his teammate Dani Pedrosa. Now we're looking forward at Dani Pedrosa. They're onto the front straight now, up to 214 miles an hour. Valentino Rossi looked at the inside. Marquez goes through on Dani Pedrosa, as you might expect. Bradl still holds that 5th place. And behind him, still holding 6th, is Dovizioso from Espargaro, Pol Espargaro. Iannone, it is from Alicia Espargaro, and Cal Crutchlow slipping back down the field on behind Yoni Hernandez. Bike's being prepared for wet weather, Jules.
And that Honda has steel discs in the front now. It didn't before the sighting lap.
Now, that's what they were talking about with Davide. They'd already made... one set that have got the steel discs in. Now they're swapping them all over because they can see the rain coming in. The only reason they didn't do that in the first place is just in case there was a problem with the #1 bike on the grid for a dry race. You'd look pretty silly if you suddenly had wet tyres in it and you needed it. So that's why a lot of teams left them already in dry setup. They're now frantically changing them, ready for wet setup if it does rain, and these guys have to come in and jump on them.
Yes, only Andrea Dovizioso decided to have a wet setup in the second bike for starters. Bradl right with the factory bikes.
Properly on it. It looked like the front was tucking under him a little bit there as well. But Stefan Bradl, no injury carried forward from Mugello. I don't know how he managed that. He must be...
yeah,
tough.
Bones made of rubber.
Sparks flying off of everywhere there. What was that? Did someone grind something out on the curb? Looked like someone actually cut the curb, and it's quite high in a couple of places here, and pinged some of the sparks flying all over the place. I tell you, pit lane is frantic. There's more action going on in pit lane even than there is out on the racetrack trying to get these bikes ready. Oh, Carol Abram has gone into the dirt. So Carol Abram, he's been there a couple of times this week already. That gear lever's broken on the left-hand side, I think, as well. So that's done it for him. Oh, slid off at 10, and again.
Oh, just when you thought the lad was getting some form back.
Yeah, I saw the linkage hanging on his gear lever there as well. So I think that's his race run completely. Here we go then, bit more work going on the 99 of Lorenzo as they put the wets in, put the steel discs in, change the fork hand shock setting as well to soften it up just a little bit in case it is wet. You prefer a bit of a softer setting. We're into the Rossi and Lorenzo set of corners here, aren't we?
I'm just casting my mind back to 2009.
Valentino Rossi, well, who doubted him? Everybody.
Lots of people, myself included, thought we'd seen the best of him. We thought, that's it. Yes, he'll, of course, be quick this year.
That's what makes the man that he is, of course. Yeah, that's what dug in all over the paintwork. Somebody's gone across there and dug into the paintwork and flicked it all back. Must have been Lorenzo then.
Must have been.
I saw those sparks that were flying back, and I think that's the bits of paintwork that was obviously being dragged on the floor as well. Off the floor as well.
Indeed, and the Honda of Marquez up to the Yamahas of Lorenzo and Rossi, inch by inch. Pedrosa just a bike length or two further back, followed by, closely, the very impressive Stefan Bradl, who has been quick here all weekend.
Yeah, Bradl looked good all weekend. No ill effects after those two big offs in warm-up and the race, of course, at Mugello 2 weeks ago. I've got to say, Dani Pedrosa not got the race pace that I thought he might have at the moment, but then again, he's got a bit of time to go. Someone throwing their hands in the air as they come to the front straight here, into the slipstream. Valentino Rossi, does he want to make the move now? I would if I was him, with that young man up behind him, the 93, but no. Lorenzo, so often, so good on the brakes, isn't he?
And he's the new gearbox that has come in this year for Yamaha, with the clutchless down change now on the box. Jorge's got used to it, and he credits it with giving him that half a second he needed on last year's time.
Rossi upside, Rossi goes underneath Lorenzo, so there you go, that was very Rossi, yes, pulls it back down. I tell you what,
and there goes Lorenzo.
That's why the cheering was going on, because the Italian was then reduffed by the Spaniard. Oh, and here comes Rossi. Not even the last lap, and through trying to follow is Marquez as well. Rossi leads, Lorenzo second, Marquez third. Dani Pedrosa comes closer to fourth because they're falling over each other in front, and Stefan Bradl's there, ready to pick up the pieces.
More proof, should you need it, that every race is a home race for Valentino Rossi.
They're trying to get away from the mob just in case they've got to make some big changes down in pit lane, and a bit of changing going on, perhaps in gearing as well, I'm told, at the moment. We'll get a bit more from that if we can while we're observing it, and through goes Marquez. Marquez has gone through now on Lorenzo. Marquez chases after Valentino Rossi. Rossi knew that Marquez was behind him, and he had to make the move on Lorenzo to try and break the toe of Marc Marquez if he could. Too late. Marquez is there. He's following up now. Valentino Rossi back in Le Mans. All he thought he could do in Le Mans was upset the momentum of Marquez. That's what his goal was to do back at the French Grand Prix. In Mugello, he didn't get the chance because he didn't have the grid position.
We've lost Alvaro Bautista. I'm told retired.
Could be anything.
Could be anything.
Could be anything. Could be a technical fault. Could be a problem. You know, that could all it could be is a technical fault, actually.
Hondas don't break. Odd.
Well, everything breaks if you...
Eventually.
I was going to say, the amount of times Alvaro's launched it up the street, you really do need to replace quite a lot of parts. You never know whether an electrical item has been damaged in the thumping that they get.
Big crash yesterday in qualifying 2 for Alvaro.
That's my point.
He had to use the same tyres he used in qualifying 1.
I always find that unfair, you know. They should give him an extra tyre allocation so that if you're going to go through the 2 qualifying sessions. But anyway, that's qualifying, this is racing.
That's a safety issue. I think I agree with you completely.
Down into the turn, Valentino Rossi. Oh, I tell you, how good does it do to see this guy? Where does he find the motivation? He doesn't do it for money, that's for certain. He's already a very, very wealthy fella. And age-wise as well, I mean, veteran now 35. Comes into the terms. Veteran compared with the 21-year-old that's jammed up behind him.
And then Lorenzo and Pedrosa, who must not be discounted. And hats off again, again to the German.
Can't beat it, can you, at the moment? See Bradl right in there.
And he's got a 2-second gap behind him to Espargaro. That's Alish, who's just overtaken the Ducati of Dobby. And then it's Pol, Espargaro, Iannone, Hernandez, and Crutchlow. Bradley Smith down in 12. Not a good race at all for Bradley so far.
Dobby has just gone in front of Pol Espargaro as well on the leaderboard, just moved up one. And if you're looking at Alish Espargaro, he had yellow leathers on during the week, now he's got a yellow bike today. A bit of changing colour scheme, I think, if we spot him back there. Through the flag, through the line comes Valentino Rossi. Jorge Lorenzo looking back at the inside of Marc Marquez and takes it. Beautiful move from Jorge Lorenzo. Runs a bit hot there, though. He's got to pull it back to the apex, and Marquez gets the run on the way out of there and looks for the way around the outside. That would have been something a bit spectacular on Jorge, but you can see what he was trying to do there.
Just gave Rossi another couple of bike lengths, didn't it?
Exactly what Rossi said he wanted to do with Marquez. You've got to take the race to him, you've got to upset his rhythm. And here at Catalunya again, Marquez just out a little wide there as Dani Pedrosa, his teammate, closes in behind him.
And the clouds close in over
all here we go.
Them.
Marquez up the inside of Lorenzo. That was really opportunistic. That looked a bit too far back to get it. The crowd are going mad here.
And Jorge tries to buy back, no room.
So, once again, Marquez returns to the assault on Valentino's lead. Up into second place goes Marc Marquez. Underneath, Jorge Lorenzo, his compatriot. Dani Pedrosa behind him, but it's an Italian that leads the Spanish Grand Prix at the moment. The Grand Prix de Catalunya. Valentino Rossi just looking so... I'll tell you, what a scout Marc Marquez. The first man to beat Marc Marquez in 2014 or to win an extra trophy.
Dani Pedrosa beat him for pole, as did Jorge Lorenzo this weekend. So the first time Marc has not started from the front of the grid this season.
Mind you, it is his first crash in a race or in qualifying. So yeah, at all, absolutely, Marc Marquez. So really, I won't say he gave him it, but they were let off a little bit by the fact he slung it up the street. Here comes Dani Pedrosa now. Dani Pedrosa looking for a way past Jorge. Does he get it? Yes, he does. So Dani Pedrosa, great shot there. Jorge looks to lean over on him as they run into the back of Marc Marquez virtually. So it is Valentino Rossi, Marc Marquez, Dani Pedrosa now from Jorge Lorenzo, and still Stefan Bradl watching brief back in fifth.
Very, very neat from Dani Pedrosa without giving any time to the men in front of him.
Actually, this has been a very neat race so far. Every pass we've seen has been really, really classy.
Brad Smith up to 11th. He's just gone past Cal Crutchlow. I can't say that either of the Brits will be enjoying that race very much. Scott Redding in 13th.
He'll be enjoying that.
In front of Hayden Royama. That will do.
Leon Camera, of course, here looking like he was going to take over the Hayden ride, but ends up being a spectator for the weekend. There'll probably be more about that, I feel. It will run and run prior to the next round. Let's see. Still Valentino Rossi leads. 19 laps to go. Rossi, Marquez, Pedrosa, Lorenzo, Bradl. These five now off the mark of the yellow machine that you can see in the background. If you're wondering who it is Aleix Espargaro with a different paint job this week.
Oh dear, and Bradl really going a bit wide there. Trying to stay with the factory bikes in front of him.
So as we watch these five battling it out, let's nip down to the pits, and Gavin's waiting for us.
Yeah, it's just to let you know the clouds are really closing in now. Got dark, the sun has been in for the very first time, and suddenly all the teams stepped out towards their bikes. Tyre warmers are coming off a little bit now. There are a few spots of rain falling as they come down this home straight. That could well be in the next lap or two. You see this is the first spots of rain, and then it's up to the riders to decide if they get that white flag with the red cross, then they get a chance to come in and change their bike.
Thanks very much there, Gavin, and interesting stuff as well. Now, Valentino Rossi, you know I was on about Chain was getting a half link put in it, as Valentino Rossi's team have shortened the wheelbase slightly on that to get more traction in the wet. So what was that that quote that I seem to have said earlier on from Jorge? It's not the faster rider, it's the one that's the thinking man that's working.
The clever one, yeah.
Yeah, the clever one that's... and I reckon Valentino Rossi, well, he's not the fastest all of the time, but he's definitely the cleverest most of the time.
And on warm tyres in mixed conditions, brilliant in the wet. Much better, I would say, than even the geniuses around him.
Shorter wheelbase will certainly give him just that little bit more traction with a bit of luck. Depends how wet it gets. Again, it's going to be the smart men that work this one through. You wait a lap too long and you'll have lost so much time. You come in too early and you'll have lost equal amounts. It's just a real... I mean, it's almost a case of follow the man that goes in front of you. If Valentino goes in, then you dive in the pits with him. Don't let anybody undercut you in any way. Yes,
when somebody changes, if they do to wet, what we will do is watch the lap time of the man on wet tyres and see when that equals the men on dry tyres, and that is the optimum point to switch.
Yeah. Not easy, I have to say, and the rider pretty much has to make the decision, because there's no ship to shore, there's no team talking to rider,
Indeed.
Working out where the weather's coming from, how long the weather's going to be, like you get in perhaps Formula 1 or something like that. Lewis Hamilton might be able to help the Yamaha team with a bit of advice on this front. He's
Definitely.
used to having to work in these ways. But it'll be, I mean, if a rider that stays out may well be able to make that next lap work much better than the man on an out lap on a wet tyre can do.
And bear in mind, you will lose, what, 45 seconds by coming down that long pit lane and out again?
That's why I said earlier on, it's a longer pit lane today because of this very reason. You're under race speeds coming into pit lane. You're allowed to overtake until you get to the line where the 60 kilometres an hour limit is. So a little bit of a bobble there from Marc Marquez.
Situation normal?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't usually worry him, does it? Nice to see Danny Pedrosa still right on it here. Lorenzo. Oh, and out goes Marquez and Lorenzo. And through comes Danny Pedrosa straight away. So a little mistake from Marquez. Teammate Danny straight up there like a rat up a drain pipe.
That's the old Danny Pedrosa at work. 2 races suffering from that arm operation, the tendonitis operation. And going back a couple of races before that, Keith, he was setting fastest laps of the race, was Danny, in the very end of the race, and his pace seemed to be at the end. Mark wants to bite straight back. Oh, that's risky.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, he knocked his man out of the way virtually. They didn't touch, but it was as good as.
Oh, team manager nightmare there.
Yeah, it really is. Livio Supo will be having a kitten or 3.
A little bit on the...
A little bit forceful, but then again, it's like we've said before, it isn't flower arranging, is it?
I suppose not, but there is a certain etiquette.
He didn't hit him. He didn't hit him. That's good enough for me.
Yeah, probably because Danny saw him coming.
And if you've seen what Valentino's done in the past,
Indeed.
and Jorge's done in the past,
Indeed.
On their feet. Oh, what a sight this is. Over the line. Fantastic. 16 laps to go then. Rossi, Marquez, Pedrosa, Lorenzo, Bradl, Aleix Espargaro closing in 6th place. Pol Espargaro, his brother, in 7th place. Dovizioso, Iannone, Hernandez. They are 8th, 9th and 10th. That's your Ducati battle going on back there. Bradley Smith back in 11th. Scott Redding now 12th. Cal Crutchlow 13th. Not having a good day.
Redding's just gone past Crutchlow, good lord. I didn't think I'd be saying that. Bradley Smith, 11th, 1.1 behind Hernandez, and doing last time round about the same lap time.
Valentino just easing away again, just a couple of tenths, couple of hundredths rather. It's not tenths, it's hundredths. But Marc Marquez is having to work with this, and he's having to work against his teammate. Great.
Who has got revenge on his mind.
And what will Jorge be thinking right now? There's my teammate out front with 2 of my compatriots between me and him. Look at that, that was a long way back. That was Marquez on Pedrosa. He did come from a long way back, but they didn't touch, and there's a lot of room. But it is turn 10 where people do fall down quite regularly.
I think the fact I was alluding to was the fact that teammates made me a little surprised at that one.
Yeah, teammates in the garage, but I'm wondering if you can make that tag stick when you're out on a racetrack.
You'd
Look
know.
at all the paint coming off of those curbs. That is dangerously bad. So much paint coming off the inside of that curb. Every time someone sticks a knee slider in it, or an elbow slider as it is with these guys, it pulls the paint off, and the paint is now going all over the track. Great big flakes of it. That cannot be good.
That's what we saw in that slow-mo of Valentino.
Rossi, 0.4 back to Marquez. Any closer and he'll hear him. Still looking back. Bradl hasn't been able to do anything in 5th place and close down Lorenzo, but it ain't over yet. That man there on the number 6. Slightly different paint scheme, and there is the slightly different paint scheme of Aleix Espargaro. A bit more yellow than usual. Certainly had his yellow leathers on all weekend, but finally the paint kit came through for the bike. There is Pol Espargaro, his brother, on the open class Yamaha. In fact, that's the factory Yamaha versus the open class Yamaha. It's Aleix on the open class and Pol on the factory. Dovi on the number 4 machine, Andrea Dovizioso, that is Andrea Iannone, back with these boys at the front. Running out a little wide, looking to pull a late apex and on the gas, picking it up on the fat bit of the tyre. Where's Crutchlow going? Crutchlow's in pit lane. Cal Crutchlow has come down pit lane, so Cal Crutchlow is in. Britain's Cal Crutchlow on the factory Ducati has come down pit lane. I don't think that's for a scheduled tyre or bike stop. No, it's not.
It's not.
He would have been quicker than that, 60 kilometres an hour. So Cal Crutchlow has retired for whatever reason. I'm not even going to speculate. He only gets annoyed. And he's annoyed enough.
Oh, very. Certainly lots. He's just literally rolled the thing down pit lane at 1 mile an hour.
So then, going back into the Yamaha team. What are they going to be able to do about the pursuing Repsol Hondas? The Movistar monster Yamaha team of Valentino Rossi, Jorge Lorenzo. Rossi leads, Jorge 4th, a distant 4th now. The Repsol Hondas are hunting down the Yamaha top man. And here comes Marc Marquez. He's got a bit of gas down there, hasn't he? That looked fast, that Honda.
Yeah, that was
the most consistent motorbike, aren't they, performance-wise? Got it wrong there, though.
Just a bit. That was a third of a second gap a couple of laps ago. That's nothing now.
So, Pedrosa, let's take another look at that. Pedrosa running in really hot there. Got that very, very wrong indeed. But good to see Danny really having a go. That, for me, is a good thing. He won't make that mistake again. He will have worked that one out for sure. So Danny now has to close back onto the rear wheel of his teammate 93, Marc Marquez. But they're all following the legend of Valentino Rossi.
Isn't it great to see the old devil at work?
Tell you what, it would be good to see if a Yamaha can stop Honda from getting their 100th MotoGP win today.
Yes, of
What
course.
about that one?
Yeah, that's a good stat. I like that.
You gave it to me. You just forgot it. You just forgot about it.
Dr. Raines gave it to me.
Oh, there we go. Looking from Lorenzo back at Danny Pedrosa on the 26 Repsol Honda, and the shenanigans going on behind. Somebody at home likes the word shenanigans. I saw a little tweet. There's one for you. Take another shot.
Definitely. Just have a look at Scott Redding still in 12th behind Bradley Smith.
Tell you what, that was hectic into that first turn, Julian, as we were watching his replay, mate.
The 99, a couple of people on Twitter, I thought riders were superstitious. Why change? It's with the crash helmet design Jorge wears at his home race. If you remember last year, Anna Vivas, the young lady who did the graphic design, doing it again.
Down syndrome lady was up on the podium last year. Nothing Lorenzo would have liked than to take her up onto the podium again if she's here, that is, this year.
She is.
So, Danny, these boys are going to try and stop that from happening now, as Jorge is back in fourth, and a distant fourth, really. But whether he has something left in the locker with 13 laps to go, we're going to find out. This track is a different racetrack to the one we've had all week. That thunderstorm would have cleaned it up. We've had Moto 2 on it prior to this race, of course. Moto 3 wouldn't have done much to it, I don't suppose, but there's been some talk about the Dunlops of Moto 2 affecting the track before MotoGP goes out. I don't know who worked that one out, but anyway, someone has.
That was the chitter-chatter last year, Keith, when there was 57 degrees of track temperature.
Nowhere near that today.
And the MotoGP boys said it felt totally different. It felt totally different from any other time through the weekend. It must be the Moto 2 boys going in front of us.
They got the blame, did they? They were chucked under the breath. Dobby apparently said it this week, I'm reliably informed. So Dovizioso continues the theme.
Dobby's the one who would actually remember what he said a year ago.
He is quite a clever lad, yes, he would. He should get a job as a commentator. Don't all agree. 46.
He'd be far too good.
Valentino Rossi.
A shout for Michael Laverty as well, an 18th. With Barbara and D'Amelio on the Avintias behind him, and Fabrizio.
Yeah, and Parks in 16th. Brock Parks is having a fantastic time here at Catalonia.
In front of Colin Edwards. Excellent work by Brock Parks.
Yeah, the PBM bikes have been the slowest through the speed trap all week long.
I thought Brock Parks' 19th place in qualifying in front of Oyama and behind Abraham was really praiseworthy.
Another lap to go as Valentino Rossi breaks the lights. 12 laps then to go now. Marc Marquez in a good position here, goes to the inside, looks for the slipstream, on the brakes, doesn't manage to do it again. Oh, he touched the rear end of Valentino, sends himself out off the track. He will not be allowed to take advantage from that. He will have to go behind anybody he's overtaken. And again, it's that rule book anomaly. He's allowed Pedrosa. Yes, that's very smart thinking. It's a rulebook anomaly, and it would have been down to race direction to work out whether they were going to give him a penalty. He didn't get an advantage as far as the place was concerned, but then again he didn't get a penalty for going off the track, which in my view he should. And the penalty he's now served on himself is to drop behind his teammate Pedrosa.
For one
not for long. Yeah, but it was there. The etiquette was there.
I think dead right. The right thing to do.
Unbelievably quick thinking from a 21-year-old, rookie MotoGP line. We can say he's coming of age this year, but what quick thinking for him. Just touches the rear end of Valentino. What was he thinking of there? There was no room for him to go to the other side of Valentino. Then he gasses it here. He has a little think about it, no doubt, in the middle of that corner. Thought, OK, we'll let Danny pass just to alleviate any race direction problem, and then I'll duff him up down into the next corner.
And then I'll
Marquez is a bit special, isn't he? I've got to say, from a thinking and riding perspective, that kid I'm
absolutely with you. That's what I admire most about that, the quickness of the guy's thought.
Well, I can tell you, these guys, their brains are going much faster than their hands or their feet can move. That is for certain. There is a reason for me saying that, and I'll try and think how I can explain it in a minute.
In the meantime, I'll tell you, bikes are now being warmed up in pit lane.
Warmers are coming.